Brian Foster, and this is the Grindhouse Institute. On each episode of this podcast, Jeremy Floyd and I program a triple feature movie night. Each of the movies share common themes, and we discuss them here. We're happy you could join us for today's block we call The Future is 2022. Filmmakers throughout history created visions of the distant future. While some of these futurists believe that by now we would be wearing metallic clothing, traveling in flying cars, and running our houses on nuclear fusion power, others imagine worlds that were a bit more in line with our current reality, and some were frighteningly too close. When the world's population has inflated to immeasurable levels and all known food supplies have been exhausted, the people turn to the Soylent Corporation. This autocratic organization holds the only available food source available to human beings. But what exactly is it made of? Charlton Heston, Joseph Cotten, and Lee Taylor Young find out in Richard Fleischer's Soylent Green from 1973. After murdering his commanding officer, a highly decorated soldier is sent to a private, corporatized mega-prison and subsequently exiled to a secret prison on a remote island. There, he must fend for his life as he's thrust into a faction war between rival prisoner gangs. Ray Liotta, Stuart Wilson, and Lance Henriksen star in the 1994 Martin Campbell film, No Escape. A home security salesman and his family prepare to lock themselves down for the annual Purge. While all crime is legalized for 12 hours outside of their home, they are still safe indoors, right? Ethan Hawke and Lena Headey star in James DeMonico's The Purge from 2013. Thank you for listening to the Grindhouse Institute. Please enjoy.
You have come here from all over the world because society has no further use for you. The international prison system has given up all hopes of your rehabilitation. This place will now be your holding pen until your death. Either accept it or die.
We are inherently a violent species. The Purge not only contains societal violence to a single evening, but the countrywide catharsis creates psychological stability by letting us release the aggression we all have inside of us.
This conversation is brought to you by Soylent Red and new delicious Soylent Green, the miracle food of high-energy plankton gathered from the oceans of the world. Because of its enormous popularity, Soylent Green is in short supply. Remember, Tuesday is Soylent Green Day.
All right, welcome back to the Grindhouse Institute. I'm Brian Foster, and with me as always is Jeremy Floyd. Hello, and how are you?
Well, Brian, I survived 2022, and now I'm ready to purge.
Ooh, that was awesome. And it works because we are talking about the future of 2022.
Yeah. In the future, it will be 2022.
Yeah, exactly. Today's show is focused on films that take place in the distant future of 2022. All the films are looks into the future from filmmakers in the past. I guess that's the best way to say it. But a look at 2022 from movies like Soylent Green from 1973, No Escape from 1994, and The Purge from 2013. And joining us today is a very special guest, Jeremy. If you could please do the introduction.
Yeah, so we were going through some fun movies that turns out that they were all shot in scope and had to bring on an expert, someone who really loves scope. So please welcome buddy and cinematographer Drew Aiello.
I'm really glad to be here. And who told you that I love scope?
No, it didn't have to be told.
No.
I experienced it firsthand.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to talk about 2022, even though it's technically over with. Although it'd be interesting to get into because I think these movies actually captured the year absolutely perfectly.
They somehow did.
They really did, yeah.
Even from the 70s or the 90s, even 9 years before 2022.
I thought the Soylent Green actually had a very close representation visually of at some points downtown cities. Like it was pretty close.
Yeah, some were close, and some, like in certain ways, the dystopian seemed a lot more compassionate than the real topian we're in. So
the topian.
Yeah, at least he watched where he stepped when he was walking up the staircase.
Exactly. He stepped over people, not directly in their face. Yeah,
people were able to sleep indoors, even though it wasn't in a house in particular. It was just on stairs and stuff. But better than outside.
Wow, those were shocking scenes.
I mean,
it is actually like it was one of those things I was noticing. I was like, well. In the real world, they're not allowed inside. That's the whole thing.
Right. Yeah, because they were sleeping. They were sleeping everywhere. Because at that time, it says there were 40 million people in New York City, which is insane.
Yeah.
And I think there's 8.5 million now, and it's still crowded. Right. It's still a very crowded place, and same with here. But I mean, that must have just been nuts.
Yeah, I guess it was like that 70s idea of being very paranoid about overpopulation, and this is like the actual like end point of what that would look like or whatever.
Once we've become overpopulated.
Yeah. And yet, we still have this stratum or whatever of like the way Joseph Cotton lives versus Edward G. Robinson and everyone else.
There's the divide there, right? That's the lack of any middle class or anybody that's in the middle. It's actually you're either sleeping on the street or you're playing brand new video games up in your penthouse and smoking cigarettes, right? You could smoke a couple of those a week if you had the money to do that, right?
Ice. That's great.
If I had the money, I'd smoke 2-3 of these every day.
We're talking about Soylent Green right now, but I think all of them were a little too close to home to some degree. Yeah. I mean, those little creature comforts is, I mean, even in LA, you live in the city, it's like how often, is there a rainstorm and your whole neighborhood has no power. I mean, it's not like it's not too crazy to think about.
Only you don't have your house hooked up to an exercise bike to like,
exactly.
to get some
put that on the Peloton, right? I think that was the precursor to the Peloton. You just hook it up to the power grid on your house.
It's a great idea. Now I have a reason to actually use it.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think that was a Black Mirror episode with Daniel.
Yeah, that's right. The human batteries in Black Mirror. I forgot about that. That was that whole
Daniel Kaluuya, or how is his name?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that is how you say it. Yeah.
Kaluuya.
Yeah.
I'm sure it wasn't the coffee liqueur is his last name. This movie, had either of you guys seen Soylent Green?
No, I was going to bring that up. This was the first time I'd seen it all the way through, but I had seen the ending of this movie played out on The Simpsons and this and like clips and like everyone, or SNL did a great bit on that when it was like, they just did sequels to Soylent Green. It was Soylent Blue, Soylent Cow Pies, Soylent all this. John Goodman was like the director. Remember that? Yeah.
No.
I gotta look that one up.
We'll be listening to a clip of that right now, I guess.
For sure.
Well, where next for the Soylent pictures?
Well, we've decided to go back to what got us here in the first place, Mabel. We've just finished production on Soylent Green 2, and I think we have a clip.
Soylent Green is still made out of people! They didn't change the recipe like they said they were going to! It's still people!
Yeah, it was one of those movies, I remember Jay-Z had a music video. I mean, it was after Usual Suspects came out, soon after. And the music video was the story. So it was like a guy who's limping and then he stops limping at the end. And I watched the music video before the movie.
Yeah.
So when I watched The Usual Suspects, I knew what the end was just because of the music video. And Soylent Green is one of those movies that I've heard that over and over again. And so when we got there to the plant, I was like, I have an idea of what this is. Like
yeah.
It is a shocking ending, but I that was the first time that I saw actually how it played out. I had always seen Charlton Heston, in his delirious state saying it's people, it's Soylent Green is people, and that's like the big reveal. But they give a little bit more to it, like the oceans are completely dried up from food or anything that we can actually harvest. Mm-hmm. And the conspiracy was that they were no longer harvesting from the ocean that they said that they were, right? That was what the original Soylent Green was. They're like, this is seaweed and things that are from the ocean, that's the last place we can still farm. But it wasn't that, and it's like, fuck me. That's so nasty. And they're just in blocks, and people getting tossed into garbage trucks at one point.
Oh my God, that scene was, what is happening?
Awful. Yeah, this was my favorite of the three. I'll say that right now. I usually do the rating at the end of the show, but this was definitely my favorite of the three when it came to feeling like the apocalypse, or at least a realistic apocalypse.
I'll also say I think that this out of the three, this world was the most interesting to me. I think, like, and even just technically speaking, just given when it was made, the production design and kind of what they created was definitely the most interesting.
Because the Purge, if I was living in that world, I'd purge myself directly out of that world the second the founding fathers or the new founding fathers took over. Praise be.
Yeah.
Fuck that, man. You'd never feel safe for 12 hours out of the year, and I would be like, fuck this.
Can I just say, did anyone else struggle buying, like, Ethan Hawke's elation with his life? Like, he was just like, we did
Rich.
I gotta sit down for dinner and, like, tell my kids, like, oh my God, look at how amazing I sold.
Oops, we only got 5 minutes. We gotta lock down. Set an alarm, asshole.
Yeah. No, but you're forgetting that, like what the central thing of that movie is, like, that the normalization that is taking place there, and how easily we absorb these horrors all the time, and they're just like, yep, that just makes sense. We have to do it. We have to kill that guy because he was running away. Have to kill him, and all these things that are insanely barbaric and whatever else. But we've just ingested it as a normal course of being. Oh, mass shooting. What time is it?
Oh God,
all kinds of things. You know what I'm saying?
I think there's been like 20, what is it? We're talking about 2022. It's January 24th. There's been, 37 mass
two in the
shootings
last 48 hours, right?
Right, but just in the country,
yeah.
In the first 3.5 weeks of January, there's been over 30 mass shootings.
Right, well, and even this part of the conversation, as again, horrifying as we all are of that stuff, we're kind of reducing it to statistics and all these other things. It's like, you know what I mean? The culture is sitting here metabolizing this thing, and that's what we've learned that the Ethan Hawke character has done, and made justifications for it for himself and all those other things. And when his son was questioning him, like, well, why are we doing this? What the hell is happening here? He was like, well, we have to. He was like reciting whatever the party line was or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's blasé about presenting those things because the idea is that in that world, that's what's happening.
It is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what? I mean, I know we're jumping ahead to that too, but that said that everything went down like in 2014, I think, 2017. So The Purge, that movie takes place in 2022, but we've already been experiencing The Purge. Everyone is familiar with it. So I'm assuming that all of the U.S. basically changed hands in 2015, 2016.
Yeah. Wait, did I miss something? So the government changed over?
So the way that they explain it, right, is that there's a new set of founding fathers, right? The new group that now we're following, and that's like, either it's in the intro and it's in those commercials and some of those news programs that Ethan Hawke is listening to, but if this takes place in 2022 and everyone is pretty familiar with this, I'm wondering what the history was of that. And I know there's a ton of Purge movies right now, so I'm assuming some of them get into that backstory. But.
So maybe the opening of The Purge was actually they were like 4 years off with that, because that's actually what January 6th of 2021 in real life was like leading up to
the start
maybe?
of it. Yeah, leading up to. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
the seeds were planted.
The successful version.
Successful in quotes. We should make sure.
Yeah. Well, let's finish up Soylent Green, and then I do want to work way back to and kind of end on The Purge. I think that'll be a fun one to end on, because it is different than the other two in a very specific way, which is interesting. But yeah, I think you're right. Like the aesthetics of Soylent Green is really exciting. I like the set pieces were done really well. Like I love the sort of riot control, like forklifts or whatever they're called, like the giant earth movers or whatever. They're like scooping
human
people
handlers.
Up. Yeah,
human tossers.
And they're like so clunky the way they like hit the ground, and then just like also just no run. People start climbing over it, and I'm just kind of like, this is insane.
Yeah,
insane and not too far off.
They're running out of the damn green.
Idiots.
Some foul up a transport. Got the scoop standing by, but I don't know if they can even handle this.
When you gonna make the announcement?
About 5 minutes, I guess. Better pass the word.
Right.
So the point of view of the movie is very much mid 20th century, right? And you can see that in a lot of ways. Like, okay, it's overcrowded, and the way they illustrate that is like by having the homeless population sleep on these stairs in these tenement buildings or whatever. As opposed to, I guess what we do now is literally bulldoze their stuff and hope they disappear.
Or make it illegal, as Culver City just did.
Right.
Correct.
Or make it completely illegal.
And LA did a couple years ago with 4118 or whatever it's called. But not just that illustration of what being unhoused looks like, but also in this they have those like bread lines that they're measuring stuff in kilos. Everyone's dressed like it's the Maoist color revolution with the olive garb, and babushkas and whatever. And it's like it was like maybe in this depiction of 2022 there was somehow porting over of at least the aesthetics anyway of the state providing things like the USSR, and because it's very hard to imagine a 2022 where the entire system that we had to deal with a public crisis, such as maybe COVID as an example, just completely was non-existent, right? And there was something about like, there was still some social programs or something like, and that to me like felt like, something that hadn't quite experienced the Reagan Revolution yet, at least in their perspective there. But let's also get into some other interesting details of this world, such as how not only are people just completely disposable and they are turned into food, but they are also so dehumanized as all women in the sort of richer areas are known as furniture because they're sort of concubines that come with your luxury apartment. Like your
now that was
your furnished apartment. Yeah,
that's what the love interest was. That's what she did for a living, right? She was the furniture of Dr. Soylent or whoever the leader of the
Joseph
pack was.
Cotton character. Exactly.
Yeah, right, Joseph Cotton. Little tidbit. That video game in his apartment there at the beginning was Computer Space, and that was made by the guy that went on to design Pong and make $1 gazillion.
Wow.
That was like the first coin-operated arcade game.
It was called Computer Space?
Computer Space, yeah, which is a perfect futuristic name for a video game.
I demolished 5 saucers with 1 rocket.
Not bad for an amateur.
I thought that this was great. It reminded some of the scenes in the like Joseph Cotton's apartment or penthouse or in the rich side of things. They kind of reminded me of, and I'm blanking on the name of the movie, but that German cyberpunk film we watched. That was the two-parter.
World on a Wire. That's what it was. The Fassbender.
World on a Wire. Yeah, it reminded me of those scenes when they were deep into the Matrix in that world, and those people were dressed all funky, and they had like different kinds of outfits, and they kind of had that vibe to me. Interesting that the 70s like looked at the future like that, like that weird fashion.
Right.
Sorry, I'm like, as you guys are talking, I'm like trying to get things to come back to my mind, so I popped the trailer on. Then right when you said fashion, the riot scene popped up with them wearing these like
the
baseball helmets that have like football guards in the front.
It's two sports put in one.
Right. The high school football face mask. Yeah.
I thought that worked because they were trying to make cheap things out of what they had already. They couldn't like make new So
but I
fashioning stuff.
It also makes me think like I always love going back, and it's like the what is Tomorrowland at Disney World or Disneyland, where like seeing how people 70 years ago thought the future was going to look like is fascinating to me.
Monorails.
Like Epcot Center. You go to Epcot Center and they're like, oh, the hydroponics and everyone's going to be growing their own plants in like the corners of their room. Nope.
Actually, that
we'll smoke
maybe something I was like a little kind of refreshed by with Soylent Green was like, it actually didn't try too hard to be like crazy futurist. I mean, at least looking back, I know it's 50 years ago, but looking back on it, it's kind of like it's not that different. Than the world feels pretty similar in a lot of the way. In a lot of ways,
sure.
I mean, I guess other than the what would you call it? It's not euthanasia. Or is it?
Well, I guess it is. Yeah.
They're going on to the next side
yeah.
and watching
Suicide.
the last like visuals that you see are pleasant.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite color? Red.
They show them a pleasant version of the brainwashing film from Parallax View.
Right. Yeah. I was thinking that or Clockwork Orange or like all these things, but it was like the nice version of those. You know.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna shepherd you into the next side.
But that was like the only like real like kind of strangely futuristic place design wise. The rest of it was all kind of, I felt like, grounded in, or they were just really good at imagining maybe what things would feel like.
And to that end, like think about the costuming too a little bit. Like, you know, it wasn't people wearing, you know, the usual sort of futuristic wear and like the sort of tight fitting, you know, glossy edgeless suits and whatever. But like, you know, Charlton Heston was always just in a, you know, ratty sweaty t-shirt or whatever, and it's like, you know.
He must have stunk, right? He was out in like 100-degree weather all day.
So much. All the makeup team did in this movie was just spray his face with water the whole movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Make him look like a sweaty side of beef.
They succeeded.
Yeah. But it's like, although like amateur hitmen, I guess that's another sort of weird connection to the Parallax View in this one. Like, whereas like the Parallax View, they're recruiting very desperate and perhaps mentally ill people to be patsies.
All guys.
In this one, they're actually recruiting those people to be the hitmen. But it's like, you know, the guy who was chasing after him in that scene we were talking about a minute ago with the sort of earth movers, the grabbing people. That guy's like, you know, kind of barely hanging together appearance and ratty jean jacket and whatever else he had on there.
Was that the same one that was the assassin at the beginning? Joseph Cotton's assassin.
Pretty sure that was a different guy.
Yeah, it's the same guy. The guy who breaks in the apartment. Yeah,
because he didn't not look sweaty and greasy in either of those scenes. So that guy was just maintaining that look and feel the whole time. Yeah.
No, because he's the guy at the very early on.
That's
Cotton
what I thought.
Goes to his car. It's like parked. It's the same guy, right?
I thought so. I mean, they might have just been similar, and they were just finding that similar characteristic of a person to, we'll give you some real food. Just go kill these people. You know, be an assassin for us. However that worked.
Right, or it's like his reward was to be turned into Soylent Green, and he gets duped by the people who hired him. I don't know. I'm probably forgetting
I'm
that
gonna be
detail.
delicious.
By the way, speaking of food, can we talk about that grocery store and how amazing? I mean, it's like such incredible, like behind the amazing personal service. She goes in, I have something special for you, and he opens the door, and it's like, was it like one piece of steak hanging, or it was like
it was like a piece of romaine lettuce or whatever.
Yeah, was there an apple or something? Yeah. Oh, it was lettuce.
Yeah. Well, because the other thing is that, like, you know, so Charlton Heston works for the cops and runs in to this place to investigate Joseph Cotton's murder. And Joseph Cotton was a big wig working for the Soylent Oceanographic Survey people or whatever.
Good memory. That's good, yeah.
And it was like... this is the first time I've seen it. No, last time I watched it was like in high school, so it would have been a second. But he goes in there and the guys who like literally just cart away the body, you know, he has to like whack it up with them with like what he's going to be stealing from the place or whatever, and you know all the little like graft or whatever that he takes. So while he's there in Joseph Cotton, the dead guy's apartment, he steals some food out of his refrigerator, which is a huge deal because, you know, most people eat this, you know, horrible lar-bar, you know, rabbit food that turns out to be made of some of it used to be made of plankton and now it's made of people. But
just keeps changing colors.
Yeah, depending on what day it is. And then, you know, Edward G. Robinson, who, you know, is this older guy, Saul, who remembers the before times.
We used to be able to buy eggs. Real eggs.
I will say the dinner scene is pretty great. Now I'm remembering it. Just like
when Charlton Heston brings home food.
Yes, and he's got to like.
Yeah.
I mean, my memory serves me. He like had to learn how to use a fork and knife again or something like.
Yeah, he just didn't know how to eat certain things. Yeah, exactly. And then, you know, it was like Edward G. Robinson had to show him how to eat a piece of lettuce or whatever, and he was like, "What? I don't think I like that."
Which, by the way, if anybody just gave me raw lettuce to eat, I would just throw it in their face.
Yeah, you take it to a comedy show with you from the 1800s and be able to toss it up on stage.
What, no Korean barbecue in this lettuce wrap?
Yeah, come on. Gotta have some sort of dressing. Come on.
I haven't eaten like this in years.
I never ate like this.
And now you know what you've been missing.
I know.
When you were young, people were better. Oh, nuts. People were always rotten. When the world was beautiful.
I'm curious, these like the elderly bookkeepers, I forgot, what were they called again? I mean, is this
like the librarian people? They were guarding the archives. That was interesting.
Like, are they all knowing? Is this like every piece of information that has ever been,
or that's all that's left
existence?
I read it as all that's left, and that's the only thing that they could preserve after whatever, some sort of bomb out or, loss of all the old literature.
Well, loss of access to that stuff, and then, so these guys were the ones who had the access and, were trying to, keep it alive themselves and whatever else in some sort of tradition there. And then he's investigating some of this stuff, and then because they had a piece of the puzzle, and then I think he figures it out while he's there, right? Because he got something from Heston, and then
he reads the oceanographic survey.
He's like, all right, fuck it, I'm punching out. Like, this is too horrifying. I can't live here anymore.
Nope, done.
Yeah.
I've got a handful of reference work 20 years out of date. You throw out a name and you expect a miracle.
Simonson Saul report, huh?
Schmuck.
Well, anything else with Soylent Green?
No, well, you have to really love the analog reframing at the end of the movie there. There's, that big push-in, freeze frame, cropping and zooming. I've never heard from Richard Klein, the cinematographer of this movie, and what his thoughts were, but I'm sure he wasn't happy with that ending frame.
Drew, you were introduced as a cinematographer. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Jeremy already knows my thoughts on this.
Yeah, but you got to share it for everyone else.
If I could shoot everything in 1080, I would. In 1920 by 1080, I would. 'Cause then no one would punch in at all. No, I mean, there's always a purpose. Like, there's whatever. Our work is, we're just but a cog in the big scheme of things. No, but I mean, I was texting you guys after, and I was telling Jeremy that this might get political, because it's like, when we get to the Purge, I think it will, for sure.
Uh-huh.
This is
sure.
Yeah, this one, I think it's interesting. I feel like, I don't know, the way movies deal with cops for the most part is pretty, and this is no stranger. It's like just corrupt cops that take bribes and do these things.
Mm-hmm.
But I was actually kind of interested in how explicitly horrible he is when he goes into these places. Like, the Cotton's apartment is one thing, but then when he goes into the main hitman and his girlfriend, his furniture, he's just he's such a shithead. To her, and just these people aren't rich necessarily, and it just has carte blanche to do whatever he wants, which I think is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he walked around like he owned the place.
And I also think, obviously they were making a statement, but yeah, the way women are portrayed in this movie are very interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wasn't bringing that up to condone it. But yeah, sure. It's definitely something where it's, it shows how everybody everywhere is sort of dehumanized, and women especially, and it's like, yeah, you're right that there is that sort of very sort of thin sheet of middle class there, where this hitman or fixer or whatever he is, he was officially like a bodyguard for the really rich people at the complex that Joseph Cotton lived in. But what he really was is sort of a fixer for the who knows, the Soylent Corporation, or I don't know what. And so he got certain perks like strawberry jam, which he was able to blithely share with his furniture, the woman who lived with him.
Really nice place you got here. Really nice. Plenty of room to move around.
Yeah, we were very lucky to get it.
Sorry I had to bust in like this, you know. Just routine.
I haven't been very nice.
Just fine.
I should have offered you something, Mr. Thorne.
If I'd had the time, I would have asked for it.
A couple years ago, there was some insane product developed by some ridiculous, venture capital, Silicon Valley style, fast-growing new business type of thing, and it was supposed to be some like extremely efficient drink that was like it was all the goopy protein and nutrients you'd ever need. You just drink it real quick and you can keep codeine, and it's like that was how they were selling it, right? And without any irony and without any sense of even realizing it, they named the company and the drink Soylent.
Yeah, I remember Soylent. Yeah,
remember that fucking shit?
Are you serious? I've never heard of that.
Soylent is an alternative to traditional food that gives people a convenient, affordable, and healthy way to fuel their bodies.
I remember joking with the friend of all three of us, Sam Kimbrell, about that, and he and I had seen this movie, and we're very much aware of what Soylent Green was actually made of.
Soylent Green is people!
But the people who made the company apparently were not.
Yeah, it was like
so
it was just the most basic level of protein. It was like the perfect amount of whatever you're supposed to eat, the macros in one bottle, so you could basically
at least that was the marketing.
Your whole so who the hell knows?
But I how like ironic. I mean, it's like you wouldn't.
Soylent.
Yeah, I don't know what. Like name it after Darth Vader or something. It's like Soylent Green was this like evil dystopian thing. Yeah, anyway.
It's badger milk. It was like just to keep you going a little bit, I think.
Right.
You're on an island. They call it Absalom, situated approximately 200 miles off the mainland.
There's no warden here, no guards, no cell. This is it. Beyond those trees are the cliffs and the ocean. The side open to the jungle is heavily defended. You know the reason for that.
The outsiders.
So let's move on to No Escape and Ray Liotta.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, then let's move on to The Purge. No, I'm just kidding.
That was fast.
Ray Liotta's in it. So is Ernie Hudson. Moving on.
Ray Liotta, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Definitely. This was I watched this movie. I think this is the first time I saw it, or I thought this was going to be the first time I saw it. I remembered every part of this movie. I must have seen this movie before a couple times. Was it on HBO a lot or something?
It played on HBO like 30 times a day. Yeah, exactly, for maybe 20 years. It was insane.
I didn't have HBO growing up, but if I did, this definitely tracks. This is the kind of movie that would be playing over and over again.
So what'd you guys think? Big fans? This was not my favorite of the three.
Yeah. It was definitely the longest of the three.
Definitely.
It just felt like it.
I mean, I would not use the word nuanced or subtle to describe any of these movies. But
that's true.
But this one is definitely takes the cake in terms of being the least subtle.
I do have to say though, I mean, for as less engaging, let's say, as most of the movie is here, the opening to me felt really ballsy and like almost something you'd see out of the 70s.
It looked like Dirty Dozen, like
So it's like it's this 3/4 bird's eye view shot of a guy standing up on a podium.
Yeah.
We're just seeing credits in the sort of negative space for 2-3 minutes,
with the military drum rolls going.
This like military parade comes walking through. One guy breaks out of the parade and just blows away the guy standing on the podium, and we cut to black or whatever. And I have no idea what the hell that is or what's happening, but it was almost something like a Franklin J. Shafran movie. It just had that feel of Papillon or Planet of the Apes or something like it. That style that the director was known for. And it was a little ballsy in that sense. I mean, I was really
it didn't match the rest of the film.
Hoping that
I was going to say
the rest would really.
It was such a great opening.
Exactly. Yeah. If that had been the rest, if that had carried through, I think I would have been a lot more invested in just in terms of the filmmaking itself. Because I think it ended up turning into like that stunt show you see at Universal.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
The Westworld, or
Yeah,
not
yeah.
Westworld,
Waterworld. Yeah.
Action Spectacular. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, especially the like
The No Escape Action Spectacular.
yeah, especially the like jungle crew, the like bad guys.
Yeah.
That whole
they just
kinda,
come
like,
out of nowhere, like, and they're off
Yeah,
of
yeah.
ramps. I don't know how they're jumping off of ramps. And, yeah, it's like, what is going on? But this guy's a pretty legit director, Martin Campbell. I mean, he's done some really big action films. GoldenEye, I think, or two of the Bond
And
films.
Casino Royale.
Yeah, those are two good ones too. Two great ones.
Yeah, and he did a movie with Jackie Chan a couple years ago and Pierce Brosnan that you're like, what?
What?
It sounds crazy, but is actually really good.
Oh, nice.
and both of them are older, and they're playing on the older part of it too. And yeah, it was called The Foreigner, a very uninspiring title, but the movie's worth checking out.
I will say this is another, again, I will say, I already said these weren't very subtle or nuanced, but they all tackled very, I think, interesting, like this in, the prison industrial complex. I think like it's not just an action movie about a guy in prison. I mean, they really do. I mean, they spend time talking about, the privatization of it and like how much money they're making. And I think it's all wrapped within, what year was this again?
94.
94.
So it's all wrapped.
Great
within
year for movies.
What else is in 94?
Pulp Fiction, Forrest Gump, Shawshank. Wasn't Shawshank 94?
Yep.
That's a great year for movies.
Damn, that is.
Yeah, this one doesn't hold up to any of those other ones, but it was part of a good lineup of movies.
And then there's No Escape.
It's a close for it, yeah.
I think this movie just suffered from like some odd hero-like stuff by Ray Liotta, including like some of the shots of him, trying to look tough with those low angles. But also, I didn't think, is it Stuart Wilson? I'm looking at the list, and I think he's the villain, right? He was Merrick.
Yeah.
That guy did not scare me at all. I didn't care how, villainous
he was like the
be.
made-for-TV Mel Gibson.
He was.
And he had kind of a Beyond Thunderdome thing going on.
Yeah, exactly. With the big hair and everything.
Yeah. Slash Battlefield Earth with his dreads and everything.
And it was like this weird mix because, like we were talking about the beginning of the movie, it had this really cool title sequence, or I guess intro.
Yeah.
And then you've got these odd characters like Merrick and Lance Henriksen, and then the other Harkonnen is in this one. Baron Harkonnen is in this.
The one from the miniseries.
Yeah, from Ace Ventura. Anyway, and then all of a sudden you've got like these like weird moments of like gore that aren't really pushed forth enough. So it's like this movie's like trying to be like all these different things, and it never kind of grasps.
Right, the guy's head getting sliced off when he tried to challenge Mel Gibson for power.
There was cool stuff. I mean, the trap getting hit by that one guy, and then you don't see what happens, but all of a sudden he comes back off on camera, and he's like kind of hanging off the trap. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of like great staging moments, especially for those things. Think about like the beginning of The Raid when the Beyond Thunderdome guys go to take on Lance Henriksen and Ernie Hudson.
They're the outsiders and the insiders, actually.
So whichever ones had the sort of peaceful colony, they were the ones. This one guy's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And like, a flaming arrow goes straight down his throat.
That was awesome. Yeah,
that was insane.
It was like on a gladiator. Yeah, there was some pretty. Was there like a beheading too? Like they went pretty heavy into the gore on some, but it felt so comical after some of the performances. It's still kind of fun.
And I think some of that comes down to this odd casting. I mean, we made a joke about how maybe you wouldn't want to cast the Mel Gibson guy, but think about this. Like, think about how Lance Henriksen, you would expect to be the guy playing the leader of the Thunderdome guys.
Yeah.
And which guy is Lance Henriksen?
He was the leader of the insiders, the good guys. He was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, he's the fucking robot in Blade Runner, right?
No, in Aliens.
In Aliens, Jesus, yes.
Pretty good for
and just on that note of an odd casting, it's like we get Kevin Dillon.
Yeah. Johnny Drama.
Playing sort of like Mouse from the Matrix 1 or whatever. He just has this very
that's exactly
tasty
who he was.
wheat. Yeah. Do you know what tasty wheat tastes like?
Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of reminded me of that character. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of weak, and he would always he'd be the one that would set off the trap because someone told him not to touch anything.
Yeah.
Right. But he's like the thing that unlike even some of those characters in the Matrix or whatever else, everything that he said or whatever, didn't make it seem as if Ray Liotta is going to all of a sudden be on board with what he's, with wanting to save this guy or whatever.
No, there's no. But you're talking about rational decision making.
Yeah,
Jeremy.
characters.
This movie does not have that. This is
no, but they were going for it, which is a strange thing. You know what I'm saying? It's
there was potential.
They always
there.
had moments of Ray Liotta staring off into the distance, and crying
and he's getting triggered by the fire, and you get
Right.
a little bit of him wanting to maybe redeem what happened with the helicopter incident.
In where
Benghazi.
was that?
Benghazi.
In what year?
Yeah, in
2011. It's wow, they nailed that one.
How the hell? What sort of crystal ball were they using to fuck?
I mean, we laugh, but it's sad. History just repeats itself. It's just the reality.
Well, what's insane is just how they spun that one into reality somehow. They cast the spell with this movie that
Is
played
No
on
Escape
HBO.
like that inspirational for to actually create real life events that happen from this? Yeah.
Yeah, it was Hillary Clinton's favorite movie.
Oh gosh, too soon.
I was the leader of a helicopter assault on a village. It was supposed to be the source of bioweapons fire. I should have known better. I had a lot of combat time, so I should have known. It was too easy. There's no radar, no air defense. I kept telling him. But he ordered us in anyway. You gotta help me, I always followed orders.
Also, speaking of Papillon, there was some of those moments where we're at the sea here, and I think I can get away, and he tosses the box over, and it just gets shredded on the rocks because the waves push it back. I don't know. There's so many moments where obviously they were channeling some of that in this one.
Yeah, but Papillon didn't have the I guess it was a Corvette engine speedboat that they had going on there with or some sort of Hemi engine that they were working
helicopters or whatever. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then those how extreme was those attack helicopter attacks? It was this little boat flying away, and they fired every single missile they had at that one boat just to take it out. They were not going to fuck around.
What's kind of fascinating is and they didn't really dive into this too much, but there was something it was undercurrent in this where that essentially the guy who was the studio boss in Barton Fink,
the
who
warden,
was the warden in this one.
Mm-hmm.
He was
Michael Lerner.
Michael Lerner, thank you. Was working overtime to make sure that made-for-TV Mel Gibson and his crew had enough weapons to fuck up Lance Henriksen and the other guys, and the attack helicopter and everything else. And it's what does that actually say about what this island actually would have been had they just been dropped there? You know what I mean? It's without the boot on their neck the entire time, would they have been doing any of this stuff at all?
Good point.
Probably not.
Would it have been all peaceful, you mean? Would it have just been this big
Would it
utopian...
all just been Lance Henriksen's toga party?
They couldn't even call themselves the Insiders because there's no outsiders, right?
Yeah. Right.
I don't even know what to call ourselves.
It would have been a Christmas party every night. I remember they had that.
Yeah, I love that.
Car battery powered tree.
Yeah.
So this needs to end up on our low-key Christmas list. So let's watch the Christmas classic, No Escape.
No.
Merry Christmas. How you doing, guy? Hey, I made you a hat. You don't have to wear it if you don't want. It's a party. We're having a party. It's a Christmas party. Come on.
I mean, ultimately, maybe that's why I wasn't super into this movie, because it's that group, the bad guys they're just created so that there's one team versus the other on the island. Yep. There doesn't really need to be any purpose to it. Why is the warden funding them and not? I mean, what's just to keep them fighting? I mean, what's the...
They were the team that needed all the makeup effects, though, because you had the one guy that had no
exactly.
eye. You had the one guy that had some sort of scar down his face that ruined his whole look, But,
correct.
But that was it. You're right. There were just two sides, and they needed another side.
No, he needed to drum up some business. He's like, look, these are the worst of the worst. I need more funding.
But the ultimate enemy is Michael Lerner, right? Is the warden running this privatized jail cell or prison system that's sending people to this island. And that's the thing, right? Is that they were keeping this island secret, and they didn't want any of the people there creating so much heat or explosions or things that people could actually see those from the satellites above, and they were trying to keep that all secret. So they're just like, put them down here in this strange island and just hope no one finds them. You know, we'll continue this as long as we can. What an odd plan.
They're like writing it on the fly.
Seriously.
No, you think he has some idea that the toga party is gonna like escape the island and like expose him?
Exactly.
So he
and
chooses to. So I guess he funds
he's
these
like,
guys.
you guys can Malik or Merrick or whatever. You can run your village the way that you want to run it. I'll just provide you the weapons. Just keep Lance Henriksen and his team away from trying to get off the island in order to expose this bullshit thing that we've created.
It started.
Any major thermal activity?
No, just a minor signature. Nothing that'll show up on a satellite track.
You're sure?
It'll take more heat than that for someone to investigate. Choppers on ready alert, sir?
No. Let him fight it out.
Also, Brian, I just want to interject with the like little Malik slip up, because I'm like, this when it like midway through this movie, I was like, yeah, this does feel like a Terrence Malick movie, just a little bit.
Huh?
No, not at all. I'm just joking.
It's like, I must have missed that one.
Wow. Merrick was his name. Merrick.
No, just,
yeah.
Deleted scenes of Tree of Life with a rocket-propelled gun and
that dinosaur that just
Ernie Hudson trying to talk some sense into him. Yeah,
exactly.
That's what I call this place. What dreams?
I mean, what an idiot! Why? Those characters fucking why? I can't stand. Just die. Just let them die.
Did he made it, right?
They're so stupid.
He got damaged pretty bad, but he did make it, right? Or did they lose Kevin Dillon? I don't remember.
No, he did. Kevin Dillon like ran into spear or whatever it was.
And then Ray Liotta went back to get him.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
He's like, only one of us can get out of here.
He sacrificed himself.
But I'm kind of just let him die earlier. And like, why are you wasting this guy? Like, he's nothing to offer. He's clearly he's like, as a movie watcher, he's clearly gonna be the guy that like fucks everything up for the entire like commune. Exactly. You know, he's gonna like. Yeah. And you know it from the very beginning. It's not he's just that guy. And I feel like Ray Liotta knows it too.
He does. He doesn't want to hang out with him at the beginning.
And that's
right?
his whole thing.
Doesn't he kind of avoid him and like tell him to get the hell away from him the whole time? Ray Liotta's not having any bit of Johnny Drama's bullshit.
Johnny Drama.
Wait, so let me ask you this: do you buy Liotta's like relative conversion to this like life?
Well,
at the end of the movie,
to me, like
because he stays, right?
Yeah, and he's like the new leader. Like,
well, it's definitely strange because, okay, like I mean, plot wise, okay, he wants to get off the island so badly, and then he decides to stay, but
end of movie. Let's move on.
We're sitting here trying to dissect this character that is totally contradictory in every move that he makes, and not in a compelling way. It's just a not well thought out way. It's like, why didn't he go on the ship? Well, I don't know, cause it's like one of those things. Someone needs to lead these people. Why?
Well, I guess it was kind of because the whole time he wanted to leave, right? He kept telling, he was the one that was trying to initiate the escape and work on the boat and get everything fixed. And he was always, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get out. I don't want to be part of this. And then all of a sudden, that's the switch, right? By the end, his arc ends with him being, all right, fine. I'll manage these folks. Yeah. I'll manage this ragtag group.
His arc goes like this.
It's kind of how it works.
As long as someone else gets off the island and can tell everyone about this island.
Yeah,
well, that's fine. I'll stay.
Send Ernie Hudson.
Yeah,
he'll go be a Ghostbuster.
Jeremy, you're an editor, so maybe they were just like, all right, this movie's long enough. Like,
I think we hit the 2-hour mark.
He's okay staying here.
Roll credits.
Cut.
We don't need to have any motivation. He thinks the weather's nice, but we don't even need to say that.
Come on, let's go. We don't have a lot of time. Come on.
Listen, Father, you talked to him before. What did he say?
He wanted me to go to the authorities. He told me he wanted you to take his place. I'm gonna blow this place wide open. You have my word on that.
So, Drew, I think it's time. I think we've come to the Purge.
Oh.
Drum roll.
I mean, it's a finely shot horror movie.
Oh, and you call it a horror movie?
I guess suspense horror.
I got
Sure.
thriller.
Well, if we're talking about the Purge now, I think it is a horror movie. I mean, it bills itself as a horror movie. It's Blumhouse and everything else, okay, but like, and it's built as a Night of the Living Dead, trapped in one house,
totally
survive the night type of archetype.
Plus the visuals and everything, it's just scary. Yeah.
On top of that, it's like there's all these little moments of little jump scares and God knows what, especially toward the beginning, where it's like, Cersei Lannister's making dinner, and then that where we see the little bug cam or whatever, and she's like, "Whoa!" And then the
toy from the Nightmares, like what the hell was that toy?
The toy from Toy Story, where it's like the kid next door blowing up all the dolls.
With the spider kid, the spider baby. Yeah, exactly. It was like, what the hell is this kid playing with?
Christ. You scared me to death. You can't keep creeping up on me like that, Charlie.
And then, they look out the window and their neighbor is like sharpening a machete or whatever. It's like
the Burbs.
I just want to go back real quick to that toy. It's one of the things that I like, an issue that I tend to have with a lot of like low budget horror movies. Because like ultimately, right, the point of the toy, at least they make it out to be that it reveals that he's got this secret hidden place in his closet that the guy can then go hide later, right? Because that's But really, it's just like so that we can get this fucking creepy doll on wheels,
Right.
and then like
It's
so
a
we can
vision,
get you these weird angles with this digital camera that looks weird. Like it's just I don't know. I just don't. That shit like doesn't. I don't know. And then I'm just like, this kid's a fucking weirdo. Like, and then he turns into like a hero later. I don't know.
Well, they had to set it in the future because they had to give him those Johnny Mnemonic glasses to be able to virtual reality pilot his doll.
Well, this one probably had the most technologically advanced future of the three, right? That pushed it forward.
Well, I mean,
at least.
Remember the first prison that we see in No Escape, where it's like it looks like when you get to Mars in Total Recall.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yes, that's exactly. Yes.
I think just going back to the quick some of the other horror illusions or whatever it felt like was like, the very, very opening of it is, actually, the cold opening credits is, we're seeing events of the Purge from different times, including real footage.
Yeah, real footage.
Actually, sorry, real quick, I just want to jump in, because this is something that I was going to say, and I forgot about it after we were supposed to talk 6 years ago. The openings to these movies are fucking fantastic. All of them are so good. Like, I feel like they're the best parts of every movie. Like, they're super interesting and like thought-provoking.
Right, and in Soylent Green, I guess we didn't talk about that one. It was this really intense montage of, different eras of America bringing us to the present. And it was the sort of, almost, what's it called? The Soviet montage, where it's just, we don't, there's no narration, but we're understanding what it is through visuals.
Yeah.
And in this one, it's a similar
kind of the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing, horrifying footage. Some of it staged, some of it. I mean, I know at least one of the shots was from the LA riots.
Yes,
which was interesting. But anyway, so after we get past that and we actually get the title, we start with Ethan Hawke driving home from work. And as he's driving home, like he's driving through this neighborhood that, God, it looks so much like the neighborhood from Poltergeist. You know what I mean? It's like it's
welcome to Simi Valley.
Yeah. And then I kept getting vibes of the daughter's boyfriend being Skeet Ulrich from Scream. He's going out the window.
He was from
and all
Scream.
This stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was the same thing. Yeah. Can I get the PG-13 relationship? I mean, there were some pretty cool twists and turns. I thought the boyfriend was a pretty cool twist and turn. She snuck him back in, and then I need to talk to your dad. Oh shit, he wants to kill your dad. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then also, obviously, the neighbors becoming the heroes that saved the day, and then all of a sudden became killers right again within seconds. You know, like they killed the Purge folks and then come right back because didn't they want to take out Ethan Hawke because he was flaunting his money? I think that was like the big impetus for that.
Right. He bought it. It's the suburban jealousy of someone else's lawn. Like, you know, he bought a new addition to his house. And I think this whole neighborhood paid for it.
Oh, the new addition you built, it's just amazing.
Thank you.
You know, not everyone had the year you did, Mary.
What do you mean?
You know, some people are actually saying this neighborhood paid for that new addition on your home.
Are people really saying that?
Relax, it's just good old neighborhood gossip. Nothing to worry about. You're too sensitive.
I think all of that is in the satire of it. It's like, you know, the sort of like syrupy Americana of like the neighbor, the annoying neighbor, but she's bringing cookies or whatever, and there's
the girl from Deuce Bigelow.
There's something very like Leave It to Beaver in that moment where she's bringing the cookies, and like the neighbors are like, "Oh, have a good purge," and like, but you know, but it's also supposed to be a little horrifying. I think that stuff on its own was working okay. I think, you know, for me, where a lot of the stuff kind of falls apart, I mean, the specifics of the boyfriend story were getting on my nerves, but then also just like these weird moments where the family splits up for no reason, and like no one questions where the rest of the family is, and like it's like, what the hell's going on?
The daughter was gone. Like, I don't know how she didn't die. She was gone for so long, and like, how are you still alive? Like, this guy would have fucking killed you already. Like, you don't seem that resourceful,
right? But how great was the reveal that like all the stuff that Ethan Hawke was selling was just complete nonsense because it gets taken down immediately.
Trash.
As long as you had more than just like a garden rake to try and break into somebody's house, it would have not held up to anything. Which is also like perfect. It's like the perfect thing of like, you know, you commodifying this horrifying event,
correct,
and then, you know, you're selling the security part of it, but your security is nothing.
He's so naive. I mean, I honestly, like, I'd never seen The Purge, and I'm not a huge...
Me neither.
I'm not a huge, like, Blumhouse horror guy.
Mm-hmm. I disagree.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
He's disagreeing that he is. Yeah, exactly.
You're saying that I am. You secretly I am.
You absolutely are.
But yeah, this one actually, there were some interesting aspects to it. I mean, I think Ethan Hawke's character was so nice. You used the word satire. I didn't think about that, and it's a good word to use because I think he is very much a caricature of this, like, you know, naive father figure husband that like thinks success is about money and how, you know, how big your house is and all these things, and they all turn out to be. Like
can you believe we're buying a boat?
Yeah, I mean, but it's utter nonsense, right? Like you said, it just falls apart like that. And I think the one thing I will say that bugs me about his character, I'm glad he dies.
Yeah,
because it tracks, it makes sense. But I think he I don't like that he goes a little hokey. Like, he should die a lot easier. Like, I think.
Oh, you mean he put up too much of a fight?
Yeah, because I think you early on you paint this picture of like this kind of naive prick that like thinks that things are working, but like Jeremy's saying, like, don't actually work. And I think maybe deep down he knows that, maybe he doesn't. I don't know, but like. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden he becomes Rambo. For
obviously he knows it. I mean, he said, "Oh, we have to do this because the stuff I sell is garbage." You know, it's like, it's.
Does he say that?
Yeah.
Shit. Well, there you go. You should edit that part out.
Yeah. We'll edit the clip in. Yeah.
Yeah.
The gypsy can't get in here, right? They can't get into our home.
Oh no.
You sell these security systems. What do you mean you don't know?
We have tested the system. It works 99% of the time. It looks good. It's strong. People stay away. It's not built for worst-case scenarios. Things like this are not supposed to happen in our neighborhood.
And most movies like this, it's that like indestructible fight sequences that I can just never.
Yeah, they're being milked too long.
Like,
yeah.
Ethan Hawke, I understand he's like trying to protect his family, but it just.
Well, he had the gun from Roger Rabbit that had the bullets that talk back to you. So
yeah, the animated
that
bullets.
one, he thought he was going to be able to stop anything with that.
Tunes.
I don't know, and I do love the preppy kids. They're all from like some rich school.
I love
in,
the
like,
preppy
the
kids.
Upper West Side of Manhattan that just flew out to LA.
Yeah.
They all felt like they like went to school with Igby, from Igby Goes Down.
Yeah, Igby Goes Down. Yeah. Those jackets, right? Those school uniforms and
yeah.
Your home tells me you're good folk, just like us. One of the halves. And your blue flowers tell me that you support the Purge. And we want to treat you fairly, so listen closely. We've gotten gussied up in almost terrifying guises. Ready to violate, annihilate, and cleanse our souls.
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing that I thought of, I and three white men talking about this is always fun, but like the way they treat the one black character in the movie. Mm-hmm. Well, there's the woman neighbor who's also black, but I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence about this.
Yeah,
because like it just feels like it. Here's this like, and maybe it's. Again, I didn't think about it as satire, Jeremy, so maybe that's what they're going for here, of this like kind of white family, the mother and the son kind of acting like saviors for this black man, but then that he like comes and kind of saves them in the end, but then runs away. I'm really...
He doesn't really have a good ending though.
Yeah.
Because we assume that he is an unhoused person, right? Based on why he's being chased down.
Based on what the preppy guy says, yeah.
And so when he leaves at the end, when the purge is over, after that 12 hours is over, where the hell is he going to go?
So like I guess I'm like
it wasn't a great ending for him, is what I mean.
Totally. So I kind of wonder if I don't know, do we give the filmmakers credit for being smart? And if it is satire that like, yes, this is a black man because this is what you would expect this character to be, and that's the problem?
Yeah.
Or is it like, it's white suburbia, and so like we've got to make sure that the guy that's being hunted and who's like possibly houseless or whatever, like has to be a black man, and so because then he has to also like seem like he's dangerous to the like young white kids, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, but and especially to Ethan Hawke and Lena Headey, it's like for them like, why'd you let this guy in? Which is their question.
Right.
I hear what you're saying. And perhaps that is the better way to read it. I mean, I kind of read it as the way I was reading the rest of this movie, as this like satire, which is that he's representative of an underclass, and the non-person, both from his housing status and his poverty level and the color of his skin, and it's like he's invading suburbia here because the rich kids from the prep academy corralled him and hunted him into their neighborhood, and then Ethan Hawke's son, whatever, lets him in, and then that's sort of the reason why they kind of siege the house, right? The preppy kids siege the house. That is kind of the thing that the Purge represents as sort of satire, is this like small step from where we are now with 4118 to, you know what? I'm tired of looking at these people as I'm going to Alfred Coffee after hot yoga. I don't want to step over them and feel bad. Let's just do the Purge and get rid of them. Right. Mm-hmm. And the person who's being killed during the Purge as the focus of the Purge in this movie is someone who's unhoused. So to me that feels like it is part of what the thing that they're stating. Some of that may also get lost just because the movie is focused a lot more on the exploitation, maybe some of the aesthetic choices that don't appeal to me in the same way that. Or wouldn't be the way I would want to see them, or like if somebody like John Carpenter done the movie, you'd feel it a lot differently.
We're gonna give them what they want. We're gonna find that man, and we're gonna force him outside.
But they'll kill him. Why should he die?
It's him or us, Charlie.
In that sense, it kind of breaks down and kind of shows the limitations of its the filmmakers involved, and then also maybe the budget, because they were trying to make it this one location film. But anyway, if that is the commentary about sort of suburbia and like the sort of people who I don't want to feel bad, while I'm walking around on the streets, and I don't even want to think about this or what the solution would be or anything else. Then those people, being represented by majority white people, kind of fits within that satire.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think that's a good point. I mean, also, and along those lines, I think tying all three movies, well, not No Escape, but I think Soylent Green in the way they portray, like the Cotton's apartment, like the like kind of how he's also houseless, right? The hitman that gets hired, how he has to like climb in he has to climb up the LA River. I look like the LA River.
Yeah. The LA River in Manhattan, yes.
Exactly, but I'm like, but just like seeing how he had to get in there, and just the idea of this kind of idea of out of sight, out of mind, which is something that I like for a very long time in my life have had issues with, and I think it's like seems to be a very strangely stereotypical trajectory for human beings in America, which is, you go to college, get a job, you make some money, you have roommates, then you start dating somebody, then you move into an apartment together, maybe you get married. But the idea is always to move somewhere else where you don't, so like you spend maybe 30 years of your life like enjoying everything that like a major city has to offer, like Manhattan or LA or whatever. And then you should leave at some point. If you want to start a family, you've got to go to these other areas where you don't see any of this stuff anymore. And I think like Soylent Green and The Purge kind of also touch on that concept that like success in our society is driven by being away from those things. Like you're saying, like not stepping over, it's not just stepping over a houseless person, but it's also like, being in a place that's super quiet, or that like your kids can like ride their bikes in the street without being worried about getting hit by a car. Like,
yeah.
But I think also like what that does to you as a human being, like if you remove yourself from that, if you remove yourself from seeing any pain or suffering or anybody that's not like you, or you're forced to be in situations that possibly make you uncomfortable. I don't know. I think it's it's like you might turn into the Ethan Hawke, right? Where you're like just so naive and you're just worried about buying a boat, or like you're just living up in this penthouse apartment in Manhattan and Soylent Green. You're just like you get women who are furniture, like the guy, right. Not to go back to that movie, but the guy that like buys the apartment after, like
no, but what you're saying is like creating that remove, dehumanizes you or makes you dehumanize other people.
Yeah, I think both of those things. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think especially in the Purge, I mean it's in both movies, but especially in the Purge that is illustrated well, and actually all three of them, because I mean all the prisoners are disposable and no escape.
Yeah, right.
Well.
Yeah,
but in the
and it's easy for the warden to just make these decisions because he's not the one killing anybody, so he's just like fuck it,
move him down here.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, he's just like watching it.
Exile.
Yeah,
we've got to go. We've got to go.
No, we'll wait here for the Jones.
No, we can't stay here. We've got to hide.
Yeah, no, actually, there you go. You got to the root of, I mean, maybe a really good kind of like through line for all these movies. It's like this concept of, I mean, I guess No Escape too is you put him in an island, you put him so far away from you, you don't ever have to really interact with any of this
Absalom
violence.
is out of sight, out of mind.
And in that sense, I think that's probably, I mean, look at what's happening to like, I mean, now in LA, thank God, tenant protections are like actually moving forward, but like, people who can't afford to buy property have been disproportionately affected since COVID. And I think like we're in a world where out of sight, out of mind is even going to get even bigger. I mean, if people can't afford their rent, they get evicted for no reason. Like, where are they going to go? The idea is to just send them, right? You get a developer come in, you buy a building of 20 apartments, they flip it, they raise the rent 4 times. And now like, the whole neighborhood is a different makeup of people, and like you don't really care where the other people go as long as they go away.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
No, totally. I think getting into what these movies got right or got wrong. We've been kind of touching on that along the way. Just to kick that off real quick, though, what was really interesting as a contrast. So we've got 2 movies made in the 20th century about the 21st century, and 1 movie made in the 21st century about the 21st century. And the 2 movies in the 20th century both have this sort of what feels like now naive belief that if you only sort of get to the truth, that and you get that message out there, that the powerful will be held to account. All of this will go away. That they're only able to do this because it is hidden. And I don't know, maybe that was a hangover of Watergate, right? It's like some reporters from the Washington Post got a president to resign, right? They exposed it, and the action happened. Whereas I think the 21st century movie, The Purge, there's nothing hidden or subtle about what's happening in that movie. It's out in the open. And it's, as we discussed, commodified, and it's totally metabolized by the culture at large. Ethan Hawke's kids are the only sort of voice of, is that really what we should be doing?
Right.
But everyone else is just they take it as a given.
I mean, I guess the wife to some degree. I mean,
that's true.
Her character I think seems critical of it.
That's true. I think yes, at the beginning, like, she doesn't voice it, but you do see it on her face, and then toward the end, especially her like, okay, no more violence. We're all going to sit here until the clock ticks down.
Yeah.
But it is that sort of thing where it's like both Soylent Green and No Escape had this ending where it was all about just like, all we have to do is just let people know that this is happening. But unfortunately, in all 3 of those cases, I feel like the movies, in all 3 of those movies and in 2022, it was too late. Let people know all you want, but how does that change the rules on the ground?
Gosh, I don't know how to take that. I think you just said that The Purge is the most true to life, realistic out of the 3 movies, which I think you're probably right. But that's also a very scary thought to think of, because it is for sure the least hopeful. I mean, I don't know if Soylent Green is.
Soylent Green things are pretty fucked. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, No Escape. Like the only part of the world we see is the prison, and both sites of prison, the illegal one on Absalom and the legal one, which was the I don't know, a prison from the movie Brazil.
It's called Leviticus.
Yeah, Leviticus. I mean, it was pretty horrifying.
Congratulations, you found a home. I run a multinational business here, Mr. Robbins. Basically, I take human garbage from around the world and I reprocess it. You will have no future contact with the outside world. No visitors, no phone calls, no letters. For all intents and purposes, you're dead. But if you break any of my rules, you'll find that there is life after death. Very painful life.
I think what is so kind of frustrating about The Purge as a concept and with the characters is, like, at the end, like you're saying, I think they believe once the Purge ends, like, I don't, what's going to happen after this? Like, that the house this guy leaves, right? And, like, okay, we know Ethan Hawke's character is dead, but what have they all kind of learned? Like, are they just going to, like, clean their house up and just keep living in this kind of society? And my thing is, I think kind of, yes. I mean, I don't know. Are we made to believe that, like, the son is going to grow up and be a revolutionary? Like, I don't know.
We're not given any hints as to that being a possibility, and it definitely feels like, well, we're going to pack up the Purge tree for the year, and we'll bust it back out next year.
Right.
Exactly.
So you clean up all the blood and all the mess that was made, and then you just the next day you go on and wait for the next one. Like, what kind of world is this?
Yeah, it's totally fucked.
It's the most fucked up world out of all 3, in my opinion. Like, the second all this shit went down, I'd off myself immediately. Fuck that. I'd go out in so spectacular of a fashion too.
You'd pull an Edward G. Robinson, yeah.
I don't know. I feel like Brian. I might actually politely disagree with you. I think now that we're talking about it, I think Soylent Green is the most fucked up for me because I don't think like. Not that there's any hope necessarily. Well, there's a little bit of hope maybe in the Purge. Maybe they've learned some stuff throughout all of this. But
well, I mean, the hope is that the Purge has cleaned everything up, right?
Well, no, the hope would be that you could
change it. Like I think the
the
way
Purge,
the family
and
maybe
make it stop.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like
you
maybe
can't ever turn off the Purge.
There you go. But Soylent Green seems like it's so. I mean, maybe that world is the most like developed in terms of its fucked upness. Like it's got history of being fucked up, and I just don't know. It's like seeing Saul's character kind of end it, right? It's saying like there is no more hope for us. Like it doesn't matter what you expose, like because humanity is so lost that like so maybe in a way the Purge you can view this as like if you go back. Like the last movie is actually kind of the beginning, and then No Escape, and then Soylent Green is like the result, right? Like if you start with the Purge, and then you end with Soylent Green.
Well done. Well said.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
You don't have to use anything else that I said.
Yeah.
Forgive me. It's destroying me.
What is?
The truth.
The truth Simonson told you?
All truth.
What is it? What did he confess?
Sweet Jesus.
Drew, thanks so much for joining us today and talking about the future of 2022 with us. Really appreciate it.
Wait, what year is it?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
It's hard to keep up, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And now I actually know what Soylent Green is, even though I actually think I already know what Soylent Green is.
Yeah, it's a drink that people came up with a couple years ago.
It's a brand new thing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you. Next time, we'll be talking about Everything, Everywhere, All at Once on our midnight movie. We're going to be doing one movie. This movie is long overdue for me, for sure. Jeremy has been on my ass about this movie since it was first released. But finally, we're going to be able to talk and watch Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I'm very excited about this one.
Yeah, as you should be. I've been wanting to do this one for a while, and luckily we're getting it together, and we'll be having a special guest back, and this one has been requested. Fans, we hear you. We'll bring Adam back to talk about Everything Everywhere All at Once.
This is when we give Adam his gold jacket.
Yeah.
All right, thanks so much for listening. Please make sure to subscribe and follow us on all the podcasts and social platforms at the Grindhouse Institute. And if you really want to give us a boost, check us out on Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It helps us to get noticed. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll be back next week.
Ciao.
Listen to me, Hatcher. You gotta tell them Soylent Green is people!